Thanks a lot, Bill, for the travel news. Some other news: Gypsy and Traveller sites are due to receive extra funding from the government following a decision to increase funding for sites. The Communities Minister Ian Wright announced a further £97 million in government funding to help local councils meet the housing needs of Gypsy and Traveller families in their area. The funding is part of a package of new measures aimed at cutting the number of unauthorised sites in inappropriate locations such as car parks or lay-bys. The Gypsy and Traveller site grants will be available for councils to deliver new and refurbished sites for gypsies and travellers in their areas.
I think they're right ones. They haven't really done anything to me at all.
Yeah, I've only seen the negative sides of travellers and gypsies in this area. So.
The gypsies, like every human being, deserve to have a decent place to live, but not in illegal sites.
We had to pick up excreta, the lot. It was vile, bloody vile.
Well, none of them pay tax, I suppose, which we do.
Most of the bad headlines that you see with regard to the Gypsy and Traveller community are based on the unauthorised sites, which often cause bad feelings between the settled community and gypsies, which actually reinforce everybody's negative prejudices against the Gypsy and Traveller community. Whereas the permanent sites actually give the Gypsy and Traveller community the proper facilities and give them the opportunity to actually take part in the settled community. All local authorities will have a statutory duty to provide pitches according to the needs of the assessment that has been carried out in their area. And the Regional Assembly will have the duty to actually collate these needs and to make sure that these pitches are being provided.
Rocker Radio with Jake Bowers
from the BBC.
That's right, you're listening to Rocker Radio, the programme for gypsies and travellers, going out live. In terms of a community, we're talking about 300,000 people, which is 0.5% of the population. And that is made up largely of English Romany gypsies, which is the community that I'm from, but also Irish travellers, who are also a recognised ethnic minority, and show people who are the people who kind of operate circuses and fun fairs across the country. Noble savages, children of the wind, you know, there have been so many things written about us in history. You've got that on the one hand. On the other hand, you have this idea of the kind of the false gypsy, the person who steals, who's work shy, who never wants to contribute anything, who is immoral, who financially drains on society. Those are the two perceptions that there are. Both of them are false and both of them are damaging. Across the community as a whole, you can find a very diverse range of life experiences, people who are incredibly rich, but also on the margins of the community, people who live in conditions which would seem primitive for developing countries, where people don't have any access to running water or electricity, where educational achievement is extremely low, where healthcare is very bad, where child mortality is extremely high and life expectancy is extremely low.
I am a Romany gypsy. I've been stopped travelling when I was about 10, so I've been settled for quite a while. And went to college, went to high school, and now decided to go to university and moved out for the first time. At secondary school, some kids would call me gypsy or jippo or something, or pikey, and straight away they'd get told off. They'd be like, no, that's a racist comment. You know, you can't get away with it. And at university, some people who are my mates, and they're still my mates, we still go out, you know, all the time, and like, you know, they'll come into uni with me, and you know, we live in the same house. They can still say really stereotypical, really horrible things about gypsies, like, oh yeah, gypsies steal. I'm like, well, you know that's not true because you know me. And like, oh yeah, well you're not one of them. And I'm like, well, I don't understand how people can still have that image and that idea, and also know the truth and like know me.
Well, there was nowhere to stop. So in the end of the day, government bought out some bits and pieces to encourage us to buy our own land. So that's what we done. It took us 10 years to save for this place. When we first got here, they went up in arms. Because of the size of the place, they thought there was going to be an influx of, you know, a big gypsy encampment, and there were rubbish and loads of things. The value of their properties was going to go down. There was so much stuff that they was concerned about. It was ridiculous, really. Basically, the people have got to know us. That there isn't a lot of rubbish about. We look after the place. We look, you know, and we mix well with the community.
People don't like change, don't like gypsies in the area, or we're going to have travellers, we're going to have trouble, but they're completely the opposite. We use this field for events. Through Joe, we use the Showman's Guild for funfair rides at some of our events, which is exactly what the normal general public get when they go to an event and there's a funfair ride. It will be a traveller. And unless you know Joe and his family are here, you don't know they're here.
For those that can buy their own site, you know, I think it's a good thing. But for those that can't provide, you know, the public's got to provide it, you know, like they do public housing.
Well, there's 5 families what we travel around with. You know, like in the area, we've been doing it for 7 years. We just want somewhere to live. At the minute, we don't know what we're doing. If someone could just tell us, 2 years you're going to have somewhere to live, that would do us. We just want the council to provide us with somewhere to go. People say to me, go and live in a house. If I live next door to someone in an house, they'd accept me. Because I want to live in a caravan, they won't accept me.
It'd be nice to wake up and put your kids to school and have a normal life.
Have a doctor.
And have a doctors when you want a dentist.
We've cleaned other people's rubbish. Because we're frightened of a bad name.
We're going to get moved on.
Peace of mind. A life. Me little children go to school, learn an education. We can't go on like this, can we?
Well, currently the Showman's Guild has 4,500 members. Each member would represent a family. And in any one weekend during the fairground season, there'll be 200 fairs of varying sizes and degrees will be operating anywhere in the country. We provide a great deal of entertainment, enjoyment and an economic contribution. We obviously need more space to accommodate a showman's family as you would to accommodate a gypsy or traveller family. The solution to the problem is for a lot more permanent sites to be spread more evenly and in relation to our travelling pattern throughout the country, region by region.
We would have sort of 20 or 30 large encampments, 60 odd caravans at a time, coming to the city with nowhere for them to go. That was costing us in the region of about £200,000 a year to deal with those encampments, and we were getting about 1,000 complaints every year from the general public. And so they decided to create a transit site and a residential site in the city. And this is the transit site. They can only stay for a maximum of 13 weeks. They would have to pay a deposit, they have to pay rent in advance, and they have to pay electricity in advance. This type of site is incredibly necessary and very, very useful for both the gypsy and traveller community, but also for the rest of the sort of society. And certainly in terms of the public purse, the City Council have found that the spend to save policy has really worked. We've been able to reduce the amount of expenditure on unauthorised encampments. It was about £200,000 a year. We spent it in the region of £5,000 last year.
People have had negative experiences with the gypsy community. Those experiences are often very real. But most of the people you talk to, their negative experiences aren't direct personal ones. They're ones that they've read about in the newspaper or heard about. I don't know very many people that have ever had anything stolen off them or seen any rubbish that was truly dumped by a gypsy. They read about it in the newspapers and they believe it's their direct personal experience. But having said that, there is no doubt that there is criminality and environmental crime within the gypsy community. No doubt about it at all, because we're human beings, and human beings are sometimes criminal and sometimes disrespect the environment. What I can say is there is no proof whatsoever, because I would have found it, that criminality, that bad behaviour is any higher within the gypsy community than any other community. What is different is that we are always judged on the worst that we produce, never the best that we produce. We're asking for equality. We're asking for the same access to services as everybody else. Now, what that requires in a democracy is that minorities have to have different treatment. Not necessarily better treatment, but different treatment.
Well, I'd like to have the same laws as everyone else. Preferential treatment, it's, you know, if people want our laws, then please let them have them.
There isn't any preferential treatment, but there are two different processes. I think the Gypsy and Traveller process is actually all part of the South East Plan, albeit that it's been done at a slightly later stage. And there is no preferential treatment as far as planning issues are concerned. Permanent sites will have to go through the planning process just the same way in that housing sites do now. As part of the process, the Regional Assembly will be holding a fairly widespread consultation on the number of pitches and the issues and options, setting out what is going to be happening in your area. And this is being done with the local authorities by the Assembly. You will be able to access it in a number of ways through our website, through our emails or by a phone number. It's very important that we hear your views so that we can send those views back in the paper that we send to the government, who will then be making the final decision. So please give us your views.